Welcome to the Bowtie Biotech podcast, where science meets business. If breakthrough biotech, bold innovations, and the business behind the science gets you excited, you're in the right place. Make sure to check us out on Substack, X, and LinkedIn at Bowtie Biotech for even more insights and updates. All right, we've got a lot to cover today, so let's dive right in.
All right, strap in, everyone, because today we are diving headfirst into the wild world of biotech.
Buckle up.
We're talking cutting-edge science, big money, the works. We've got our eyes on a whole bunch of fresh articles from the biotech and financial press, so get ready for a wild ride where Wall Street meets the lab. Our mission today.
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
Exactly. Is to break it all down and give you the need to know on the biggest trends shaking up the biotech scene right now.
From blockbuster drugs to gene editing and even AI. Oh, and a little bit of corporate drama sprinkled on top because, well, why not?
Right. Gotta have a little drama. So to kick things off, let's talk about Pfizer. The pharma giant, they made the COVID vaccine. Well, it seems even giants have to answer to someone.
Everyone's got a boss, right?
Right. So in this case, it's this activist investor group called Starboard Value, and they are not messing around.
Activist investors, they're an interesting breed. They basically buy a huge chunk of a company, enough to throw their weight around, and then they push for changes that they think will, make them more money.
Yeah, they're all about that profit. And in Pfizer's case, Starboard put their money where their mouth is. They dropped a cool $1 billion on Pfizer stock.
That's a billion with a B. They're not here to play games.
Seriously, that's a pretty clear message. Basically, they're saying that Pfizer's stock hasn't been doing so hot since the whole vaccine hype died down, and they want to see some action.
More innovation, more growth, beyond just the whole COVID thing.
Exactly. But, and here's where the drama comes in, Starboard is claiming that Pfizer actually threatened their former execs to try and silence them.
Ooh, conspiracy time.
Right. We're talking about Ian Reid, the former CEO, and Frank D'Amelio, the former CFO.
Big names, big accusations.
Huge. So apparently Starboard is saying that Pfizer threatened these guys with legal action if they didn't back the current CEO, Albert Bourla, and, denounce all of Starboard's ideas.
Talk about a power move, huh? Trying to silence dissent from the top.
Seriously. And it makes you wonder what those big, scary changes are that Starboard wants to make, right? But we'll have to keep an eye on that saga as it unfolds because things could get really interesting. For now, let's switch gears to something a little less corporate espionage-y. Let's talk about obesity drugs because apparently that's the new hotness.
Yeah, move over COVID vaccines. There's a new sheriff in town.
Right. And this time, it's all about weight loss.
It's a big deal. Obesity is a massive health problem, and these new drugs that are coming out, they're creating a lot of buzz, both for doctors and, of course, for investors. Wegovy and Zepbound are two that are already on the market, and let me tell you, they are flying off the shelves.
Yeah, I've heard about those. People are practically begging their doctors for them, and it sounds like the competition is only going to get fiercer, right?
Oh, absolutely. There are tons of companies out there all racing to develop the next big weight loss wonder drug. Some of them are showing some pretty crazy results in trials, too, like patients losing 20% or more of their body weight.
Wait, 20%? Just from taking a pill?
Yeah, that's the idea. It's pretty mind-blowing, right?
It kind of makes you wonder if this is the future, if weight loss could really be that simple.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But it's important to remember that these drugs, they're not a magic bullet. There's always the potential for side effects, and we don't really know the long-term effects yet.
Right. Got to be careful with the whole miracle cure thing.
Exactly. It's all about balance. These drugs have huge potential, but we need to approach them with caution and make sure we're considering all the angles,
Absolutely. Speaking of balancing risk and reward, let's move on to gene therapy, because this is a big one. It has the potential to cure diseases that we thought were impossible to cure before, but it's not without its risks, right?
Gene therapy is a whole other ballgame. We're talking about tinkering with the very building blocks of life, your DNA. It's powerful stuff.
And with great power comes great responsibility, or something like that, right?
Exactly.
And we've already seen some real-world examples of things not going exactly to plan, like those 7 kids who got that gene therapy Skysona for that rare neurological disease.
It was a really sad situation. Those kids all developed blood cancer after the therapy.
Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? Like, how much are we willing to risk for a chance at a cure?
It's a tough question, and there's no easy answer. Researchers are still trying to figure out exactly what went wrong in those cases, but it highlights just how complex gene therapy really is. We're still in the very early stages of understanding how to manipulate our DNA safely.
It's kind of scary, to be honest. It makes you wonder what kind of safeguards are in place to make sure these kinds of things don't happen.
Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act.
Yeah.
But, while we're talking about pushing the boundaries of medicine, we can't forget about AI. Seems like AI is changing everything these days, and drug discovery is no exception.
AI is everywhere, right? It's like it's taking over the world. But seriously, AI designing drugs? That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It's pretty wild, right?
Yeah.
But it's happening. There's this startup, Basecamp. They've teamed up with the Broad Institute, and they're using AI to develop what they call programmable genetic medicines.
Programmable. Okay, now that just sounds way too futuristic. What does that even mean?
Basically, they're trying to create treatments that are tailored to your specific genes.
Wait, so like personalized medicine, but on a whole other level?
Exactly. So instead of a one-size-fits-all drug, you could have a medicine designed specifically for your genetic makeup.
That's insane. But how does it actually work? Is the AI like whipping up new drugs in a digital cauldron or something?
Not exactly. They're basically feeding the AI massive amounts of data. Think of it like a giant library of biological information. It includes stuff about how genes interact with each other, how proteins work, all that good stuff.
So the AI is like a super-powered research assistant, sifting through all that data to find the good stuff.
Pretty much. And the cool thing about AI is that it can analyze huge amounts of data way faster than any human ever could. The more data you feed it, the smarter it gets.
Okay, that is pretty cool. But all this cutting-edge research, it can't be cheap, right?
You're definitely right about that. Developing new drugs, especially in areas like gene therapy and AI, takes a ton of money.
Well, speaking of money, we saw that Pure Spring Therapeutics, they're working on gene therapies for kidney disease. They just got a cool $105 million in funding.
See, investors are definitely willing to take the gamble. And there's Judo Bio, too. They're focused on something called RNA-based drugs for kidneys, and they launched with $100 million in funding.
100 million. Just to start. Okay, that's a lot of faith in RNA and kidneys. What's so special about RNA drugs for kidneys anyway?
Well, it all comes down to delivery. See, RNA drugs, they work by targeting specific genes, and Judo Bio is using a new approach to deliver those drugs directly to kidney cells, which is something that's been really tough to do in the past.
So it's like a guided missile for your genes.
Basically, it's super precise.
That's awesome. But let's be real for a sec. Not every biotech company is going to hit the jackpot.
Oh, absolutely not. Developing new drugs is a risky business, no matter how you slice it. It takes years, sometimes even decades, and tons of money. And there's still no guarantee that the drug will actually work or that it'll get approved.
Right. It's a tough business to be in. I mean, we even saw that Gritstone, they were working on vaccines. They ended up filing for bankruptcy.
Yeah, that was rough. It's a good reminder that even with amazing ideas, the biotech industry is incredibly competitive. And navigating the financial side of things is just as important as the science itself.
No kidding. But hey, speaking of funding, we read about this interesting thing called royalty financing. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah. Royalty financing is becoming more popular as a way for biotech companies to get the money they need without giving up a piece of their company.
So instead of selling stock, they're selling like a cut of their future profits.
Exactly. Investors are basically buying a share of the potential profits from a drug if it's successful. It's less risky for the biotech company, and it could mean big rewards for investors if the drug is a hit.
I guess it's kind of like investing in a movie, right? You never know if it'll be a blockbuster or a flop.
That's a great analogy.
Speaking of comebacks, remember those CB1 inhibitors? They were supposed to be the next big weight loss thing, but then...
Yeah, the CB1 inhibitors. They were promising, but then those safety concerns popped up and they kind of faded away.
Right. So what's the deal now? Are they making a comeback tour?
They just might be.
Yeah.
There are a few companies working on new versions of these drugs, and they claim to have figured out how to make them safer.
Oh, really? What's different this time?
Well, instead of targeting receptors in the brain, these new CB1 inhibitors are designed to target specific receptors in the body, which they think will reduce those side effects that caused problems before.
Interesting. So it's all about refining the approach, hitting the target more precisely.
Exactly. But, only time will tell if these new CB1 inhibitors can live up to the hype without those risky side effects.
True. It seems like with all this cutting-edge stuff, there's always some level of uncertainty. It makes you wonder what wild innovations are just around the corner. Wow, we've covered some serious ground today. From Pfizer's boardroom drama to weight loss drugs to the crazy world of gene therapy and AI. It's a lot to take in.
It really is. The world of biotech never sleeps, does it?
Definitely not. And with so much innovation happening, it's hard not to get swept up in all the excitement. But it's also important to remember that there are real challenges too, right?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Bringing these groundbreaking treatments to market is no easy feat. It takes time, money, and a whole lot of perseverance. Not every promising idea makes it to the finish line.
True, true. It's a high-stakes game, that's for sure. But with all these incredible advancements, especially in gene therapy, RNA, and AI, what do you think the future holds for healthcare?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We're on the verge of a whole new era in medicine. Imagine a world where we can treat diseases at their source, tailor treatments to your unique DNA, even prevent some diseases altogether. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. But are we ready for it? I mean, all this power, it comes with some big questions too, right? Ethical stuff, long-term consequences, unintended effects.
Absolutely. As these technologies become even more sophisticated, we need to think critically about those questions. We have to make sure that these advancements benefit everyone, not just a select few. And that's a conversation that needs to involve scientists, doctors, policymakers, and the public.
That's a good point. It's not just about the science, it's about the bigger picture. Well, one thing's for sure. The future of biotech is anything but predictable.
That's the beauty of it. There's always something new and exciting happening.
And that's a wrap on another deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this whirlwind tour of the biotech world.
It's been a blast. Until next time, stay curious, everyone.
And don't forget to check out the show notes for links to all the articles we talked about. See you next time.
You have been listening to the Bowtied Biotech podcast. Make sure to check us out on Substack, X, and LinkedIn at Bowtied Biotech for even more insights and updates. We appreciate your support and see you next week.